Hey everybody, welcome to Average Guy Opinions. I'm your average guy, John Crowley. This is episode 178. And just when I was running out of stuff to talk about, what should happen, and Bill Cosby should be released from prison on what a lot of people are calling a technicality. Now, it's not really a technicality. It is kind of a mess, though, when people can do horrible things that they're definitely guilty of and then somehow not have to pay the price. He's been in prison almost 3 years, and it's really flying. It really flew by, in my opinion. I didn't realize he'd been in prison for nearly 3 years already. The issue was that I guess a prosecutor dropped the original case, and then Cosby admitted a bunch of things, and then they reprosecuted him, and then he was found guilty of the crimes he committed. Now, I don't know the law that well, and I may not even be saying accurately what exactly happened, but basically the Supreme Court in Pennsylvania overturned the conviction based on that. Basically, it's a Fifth Amendment thing where self-incrimination, Fifth Amendment provides relief against self-incrimination. Sorry, I got a mess here on this table. And, that apparently that you can't do that. You can't say, hey, we're going to prosecute you. And then maybe you say a bunch of stuff and say, okay, well, we can go lighter on you. Or maybe make a deal so you don't end up in prison. Then they re-prosecute and you end up in prison. So that sounds kind of like what happened. Nobody's celebrating that Bill Cosby's out of prison. It is hard to watch an old man go to prison, and one of my heroes, this is going to end up me talking more about Bill Cosby than what he did. We have all heard the stories of horrible things that he did, and it's a fucking heartbreaker, man. It's horrible, obviously, for the women. It's horrible for him and his family. It's horrible for people that admired him growing up, and I was one of those people. I wasn't like a huge Cosby fan of his comedy. I kind of liked edgier comics when I was a kid, but Cosby was an icon. I mean, he's really one of the first comics to hit the media stride in the 60s the way he did, to be so well known and so funny. Like I said, his brand of comedy wasn't my particular cup of tea, but he knew how to make people laugh. And he knew how to do it very cleanly, as we know. Starred in all kinds of shows. Of course, The Cosby Show in the 80s, I Spy in the 60s. Fat Albert did animation. It was one of my favorite cartoons when I was growing up as a kid. Really, crazy to see Bill Cosby's humongous fall from grace. I actually, when I do my podcast, which I haven't done lately, and I need to start getting into it again. When I do my podcast, I like to ask people who is on their Mount Rushmore of comedy, and Bill Cosby, I may have to sandblast his face off and put maybe Eddie Murphy up there, but Bill Cosby's one, and it's not that he's the guys that I like. The four guys are not my four favorite comics. There's a big difference. Not your favorite comics, but the Mount Rushmore of comedy. Like on Mount Rushmore, they have those people there for a reason. George Washington for being the founder of the country, Thomas Jefferson for expanding the country through the Louisiana Purchase, Abraham Lincoln for keeping the country together through the Civil War, obviously, and then Teddy Roosevelt for being big into conservation, even though he shot a ton of animals on the way. For me, it's the four are Cosby, Pryor, Lenny Bruce, and George Carlin. They all did different things for comedy. They all helped popularize comedy and make it great, and all for different reasons. Cosby, I think, was more of Cosby, like I said, was a media guy. Lenny Bruce pushed the envelope as far as what could be said on stage and what couldn't be said on stage at that time when he was blowing up in the 50s and 60s. Lenny Bruce, speaking of Supreme Courts, of course, Cosby's conviction was overturned in state Supreme Court, but Lenny Bruce had three different cases about, I guess I'll call it filth, for lack of a better term right now, but for what you could say and could not say on stage. Had three cases go to Supreme Court, and only one of them. He was I think he was arrested on stage a couple times, just like Jim Morrison later in the 60s, and but Lenny Bruce was a genius, and often said things that weren't very funny, but truths that maybe we didn't want to hear. But Lenny Bruce, I think, is hilarious and was amazing. Pryor for pushing the envelope as far as filth in the 70s. Not only filth is a rough way to say it, but and also for the conversational style in which Pryor could just make the everyday funny. Carlin, another. They're all four of them are geniuses. Carlin, once again, was also pushing the envelope as far as what you could say on stage, but also an intelligent way to say that we're all just a bunch of slaves to the system. I just think all four of them had amazing things to say, and they would be on my Mount Rushmore of comedy. Once again, that's Bruce Carlin, Pryor, and Cosby. Cosby, to continue a little bit about him, here's a little funny thing that I found out when I was a kid. My dad worked for a corporation called American Bankers. Um, I think he got the job right before he moved here in '73, and I think he kept it till close to 1980. I'm not exactly sure, but he was kind of a, and that sucks. Hopefully that blower or whatever it is doesn't make too much noise over my video, but that's the chance you take out here in the suburbs. But he worked for American Bankers, and he was kind of, he wasn't like a big deal. He's a salesman, but my dad's really good at talking to people. As much as I bitch about him on this channel, the man is a good judge of character. He knows he doesn't trust people enough, in my opinion, but he's also has reasons for that. But he does. He knows he will pick up on a person very quickly and break down their character very quickly. Should have been a lawyer, to be honest. He can spot a liar in a second, which made high school hell for me because I lied a lot and he caught it a lot, almost all the time. Anyway, back to Cosby. So he ended up, Cosby visited Denver in the late 70s, I want to say 78, 79. And this was the heyday of Fat Albert. And so I was like 11, 12 years old and still watched Fat Albert on Saturday mornings because I just thought it was a great cartoon. I loved that it was about kids in the city and it showed kind of a comical yet poignant view of inner city life for black kids in an amazing, humorous, animated form, but also showed you how hard it was on these kids. It was very real for me, and but it was also hilarious at the same time. Cosby was a genius for creating that show. So Cosby was at the height of that, right? This was a few years before the Cosby Show on NBC came out. And so my dad was, I guess, how do I put it? I guess he was fitted. He was assigned to take Bill Cosby around Denver. I don't know if Bill Cosby had never been here before or what the deal was with American Bankers, but he was here. I don't know if he's going to do ads for them. I have no idea, and I should talk to my dad about that. But yeah, he took him around for like a day, and apparently, according to my dad, he was just an asshole. He was just thought he should get carte blanche wherever he went. He was not patient at all. He just was an asshole, and my dad said that guy's a douchebag. And I was like, like I said, 11 or 12. I was like, oh man, come on, really, Bill Cosby, Dad? You sure? And he's like, yes, I'm sure. Yeah, and he didn't go into great detail, but he just said wherever we went, he thought he should be the first through the door. He thought people should be blowing him essentially. And I was like, wow. And so that was my first glimpse into Bill Cosby, and why I may have been a tad less surprised than the general public about what he was doing to these women for the last 50, 60, who knows how many years. Disappointed, but not as shocked as a lot of people were when I heard that kind of almost sociopathic mentality that often comes with fame was imminent in his being. It's not a long way to go to rape, and not a long way for a mind like that to rationalize raping women and getting what he wants in the end. Having said that, it's just a sad drop until his, here we're just basically waiting for him to die. I think he's 83. He can't be in great health. I can imagine he's been getting eaten up inside, having to look himself in the mirror every day and atone for his crimes somewhat for the last 3 years. I don't know. I actually do a joke about him, and I'm going to actually do it tomorrow night. I'm doing a birthday roast for Ricky Ramos in Longmont at the Speakeasy, and that'll be perfectly timely. I've done this joke for several years, but it's a joke about most of us comedians belong in hell because we're either atheists or, I'm not saying we're terrible people, but we say whatever we want, especially on stage. We often flip a switch that makes us really just crazy, and so the joke is, I'm going to hell. All these other comics are going to hell, and soon headlining in the Fire and Brimstone Auditorium in Hades, just down from the Hades River, Mr. Bill Cosby, everybody. So that's the joke. I'll tell it tomorrow night. It's unfortunately rather timely and rather accurate. All right, thanks, you guys. We'll see you next time. Bye.